It's when I made this stream about this next segment that it is not about the comic, it's about the commercial. I find that so odd because I'm talking about Godzilla vs. Charles Barkley, because I was around in the 90s. This came out in 1992. It was way more about the commercial than the comic. The comic was something that happened that everyone ignored. I have no clue why there's more reviews of the comic. It seems so weird to me. So that's sort of why I just want to do the commercial. Also, the commercial's shorter than reading that comic, which I have read. It's okay. There's some cool, funny panels in it. That's as much as I think you can get out of it. But Linkara did a review and stuff. But there is actually a good behind-the-scenes thing of this. But it's basically a commercial where Godzilla is attacking Tokyo, and Charles Barkley shows up, is going to play him in basketball, kind of like basically like fouls, punches him. And scores a big basket, and then that's it. It's 30 seconds. This is actually made by Industrial Light and Magic to look like a Godzilla movie, so which is why it has this kind of like interesting look about it. And the director actually worked on things like E.T. and stuff like that. It has this kind of interesting vibe to it because it's a Godzilla movie. I think kind of shows you America could have made a Godzilla film if they made it this way, but instead of they like Americanized it, it was like once they were aping the Godzilla style, made it in this kind of like odd 90s style, it kind of worked. It's very precisely shot, and there is a really precise behind the scenes thing that goes through like literally everything you can imagine about everything making this, that if you are super interested in Godzilla vs. Charles Barkley, don't worry, you can watch it. It's like including just shots that you just think are just like throwaway things they like needlessly planned, which kind of shows you why this is like instantly so memorable. Also because Charles Barkley fought Godzilla. That's kind of interesting as well. And they were being a little more interesting about basketball players in pop culture. Obviously Michael Jordan was doing stuff with Bugs Bunny in commercials at the same time. And I think it's fun, like what they do with Godzilla. They make Godzilla funny. He puts on big glasses, like he's going to play basketball. All this stuff. They destroy some stuff, and then they're just friends in the end. Depending on the edit, there's one version that says, have you ever considered wearing sneakers? Which is because it's a Nike commercial. The other is because it's like, hey, you're pretty big. Have you ever thought about it? Or the Lakers could use a big guy. I think, right? Something like that. Anyway, it's a fun commercial. It's very 90s and silly. It actually premiered during the 1992 Video Music Awards, which is probably the most early 90s thing they can imagine. But it's just such a funny, odd little commercial because, like, you have Godzilla, you have Charles Barkley. Obviously, those are two things that check off big boxes for me because you probably already know my love of Charles Barkley from the Knockforce things and stuff. But I think... yes, they needlessly destroy buildings, as Cornbread has said. It's sort of a goofy little short, but it's like having fun with Godzilla, but also being respectful. This was originally actually made for Japanese television and not for American, but they liked the commercial so much they aired it everywhere. It was an actual big deal. They made posters, they made a comic book, they made merchandise of it because it was kind of a funny big deal. Like I remember they aired it a lot. I remember it from my childhood thinking it was actually kind of cool. It's kind of how I knew who Charles Barkley was because he took on Godzilla and won at basketball, which Godzilla isn't really known for his basketball skills, but I like that it's a Godzilla fight and they just like walk off and they're just, they're just friends. Charles Barkley and Godzilla. There's just kind of a classic 90s commercial that had way too much money in it and was utterly ridiculous and then had an ad campaign. It was just like, this is how commercials were in the 80s and 90s. They even had t-shirts and they'd merchant. They'd literally make commercials for a commercial, which is beyond postmodernism. It's just capitalism. But if you ever need a fun little laugh, the 30 seconds of watching Godzilla play Charles Barkley is, just a fun little thing. And I think Charles Barkley leaned into it. Apparently he was really game for it. Even in the behind the scenes, he seems like he was having fun doing it. And I think they do a good job of making a really professional special effects Godzilla. It's hilarious that this is better than the 1998 one, but I think it's because they're sort of loose about it and cared more about like articulating just this simple little fight rather than telling a bigger story. It's sort of like an interesting little demo reel for a nice American Godzilla movie that would never happen. Because I'd much rather a Godzilla movie in America be fun like this than to make some point that metaphorically they can't make. But whatever, it's just fun watching Godzilla take on Charles Barkley.